Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm your host, Tomas Garza. And for those of you joining me from the United States, happy 4th of July. I hope that you're going to do something fun, have a great big party. Now, right here in my neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona, we live in a neighborhood that is full of parties on the 4th, and we will be surrounded, quite literally surrounded by fireworks, legal and illegal, small little sparklers to giant aerials that people shoot off right in their backyards. And last year we sat in the pool and watched it all play out. We're going to do the same here this evening. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm excited to talk about today's lesson because we're continuing in the workbook for students. Now, if you're not familiar with A Course in Miracles, you'll notice that there are three main components. It's, in fact, a compilation of three different things, three different books really combined into one. There is a text which talks about the thought system, universal spirituality as presented here in the course. It's a bit more abstract. There is a component that I really love called the Manual for Teachers, which is a series of questions and answers. Really interesting Q&A there. And then there's the workbook for students, which provides us with a daily idea and some suggestions for practice. That's where we are right now. And we're in the midst of a review period where we're going back and we're taking a look at some ideas that we've previously covered in the workbook and here also on this live stream. Now, if you're interested in looking at some back editions here, I would invite you to tune in to Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel. Again, on YouTube, Enlightened World Network has every single show on its channel. So you will be able to take a look at playlists of every single show on the network, and it's some fantastic programming. I can't recommend that enough. This show is called A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love, and you can catch every single back episode of this show on the YouTube channel. So yes, please feel welcome to check that out. Say hello in the comments. I love to hear from you live. And if you're catching me on the replay, say hello anyway. Let me know that you're joining us here today. And if you have any questions or comments about today's material or spirituality in general, please feel welcome to leave them here. So something that I've mentioned before that I'm called to mention again, it's always worth bringing up, is that A Course in Miracles does not require you to abandon your current spiritual tradition. It is not by any stretch a religion. In fact, it's intended to supplement, it's intended to augment and maybe clarify whatever your path currently is. What we're talking here are universal spiritual principles that, when put into practice, lead away from suffering. Perfect, right? That is what all of spirituality is about in the end. And there are so many things available, so many traditions available, that there are many people who use the material contained in A Course in Miracles to help them further understand, to help them further elucidate their own walk, their own path, their own journey. So you're welcome to use it that way, or this may form the core component of your spiritual practice. It might serve as the foundational element. It can certainly do that as well. What we present here is universal spirituality, truth with a capital T, which exists and has always existed independent of all of our roaming around, all of our separation, all of our anxiety, wars, everything that we get ourselves involved in here in the world. Yeah, truth is always there, and it's for us to awaken to it. So where we are with the workbook today is lesson 116, and there are a couple of very powerful ideas that are worth a little bit of commentary. Now, the practice suggestions from the workbook for this review period, which will be in for the next few days. So the better part of this week, we'll be going through some ideas that we've previously covered, and it's so valuable as a learning tool to go back and review, isn't it? Think about school or class, or if you went to college and university and studied for exams, there was always a review period right at the end of the semester, at the end of the term. You had time to go back over previous material. Why? To supplement your learning. And what we do in these review periods is we look at concepts and ideas a different way. And you may end up seeing something that you didn't see before. You may end up hearing something that you didn't hear before, and getting something on a level that you did not comprehend prior. That's the goal. And that's the goal here, is to always be learning, always be a student. It's a beautiful thing. And as a teacher here, I am not reinterpreting anything. I'm simply presenting what the course presents with my own experience, and you will hear whatever it is you're supposed to hear. I know you're watching this for a reason, so stay tuned here. We're going to talk about some really, really important items here today. So, lesson 116, where we find ourselves today, is a review of lessons 101 and 102 in the workbook. Let's start with 101. God's will for me is perfect happiness. All right, very straightforward. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Now, maybe you have done this already, but I invite you right now to contemplate a reality where there is no jealousy. You may have been raised, as I was, to think of God as a jealous being. Jealous? No, indeed, right? Surely not. How could perfect love be jealous and vindictive and cast you out of the garden and strike you down at whim, with a moment's notice, just because you didn't go to a certain building every Sunday at 11 o'clock and say the same prayers by rote memorization, like regurgitation? Yeah, how can that happen? If you've ever wondered that, let's wonder that together right now. God's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for you is perfect happiness. Not torture, not hell, not death, suffering, decay, anxiety, frustration, and fear. Perfect love can only extend itself. It is not capable of anything but love. Now, you may have been told growing up, again, as I was, that God is love. So I received a contradictory message that God was jealous, vindictive. This man, always a man, right? God's not human. He's neither male nor female, right? So here we are in our cultural context, thinking God's a he with a big, mean, jealous streak ready to strike us down. Yeah. I received that message along with the message that rung true for me and may ring true for you as well, that God is love. So perfect love is not jealous. I mean, think about it. Real, perfect love is not possessive. It's not jealous. God has no ego to be offended. If you're hearing this for the first time, I'm glad you are. I invite you to do nothing more than just contemplate this. I do not expect you to believe it if you don't. I do not expect you to adopt this as your mantra, your personal mantra, if you don't want to. All I want is for you to just listen to the idea and kick it around. in your mind. Roll that around a little bit. God's will for me is perfect happiness. Perfect happiness does not contain anxiety, frustration, fear. It does not involve a separate sense of self, being the ego. It does not involve competition for supposedly scarce resources. It does not involve lack, grief, loss, none of that. Just entertain the idea. Next idea for today is lesson 102. I share God's will for happiness for me. I share God's will for happiness for me. Here's another idea that I invite you to consider that the Course puts forth, is that God's will and your will are one and the same. One and the same. There is no separation between the two. Your will and God's will are the same. God's will for you, perfect happiness, not frustration, not fear. We foist that upon ourselves. We foist that upon ourselves, believing erroneously that we are separate beings, running around having separate thoughts, having separate experiences, and certainly that is the way that it appears. So, one of the things that I truly love about A Course in Miracles, and you may find equally compelling, is that it presents truth just as it is, with a capital T. And it leaves it up to us at our own pace to study and practice these ideas. This is a self-study curriculum. It is, in my estimation, the genius of this whole course is that it gives us something to do. You may feel this intuitively, instinctively, that you are responsible for your own salvation, which is true, by the way. Each of us is. You may have been told otherwise growing up, as I most certainly was, and you may have kicked those ideas around in your mind and thought, I don't know. And if you've ever had any doubt about that, I invite you to nurture that doubt and sit in it, please, for your own sake and for the sake of all of the rest of us. Sit in that doubt. It's beautiful. It's beautiful because it will lead you out of suffering. The more you question the foundations of everything that you now believe, the better off we all are. And I invite you to do nothing less than that. I always encourage people to question everything, literally question everything. Now, what most people do is they question some things, like they might see someone talking online, like myself, and question everything that I say. No problem. Absolutely not a problem at all to question anything anyone says. Listen to your own heart, listen to your own intuition. Does it ring true for you? Does it resonate for you? There are many spiritual paths. They all lead to the same place, but there are many different routes that you could take. Which is your route? I don't know. Question everything. Where we stop is we question some things and not others. We like to leave some of our cherished beliefs unturned, untouched by our questioning mind. What happens? That becomes concretized in our minds. We cast everyone that disagrees with us to the side, and everything we don't question becomes personal territory, and we spend our lives defining what that is and then defending it. I had a really wonderful Buddhist teacher at an earlier point in my lifetime, in my spiritual journey, who said, yes, we spend all of our time defining and defending personal territory. And we do. That is the world of the ego. Me, 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 me. If you're not for me, you're against me. And you may think, well, I don't really say that. I don't really think that way. Great. I invite you to consider everything, every single aspect of your life, any area where we act out of a sense of separation is an area that we need to take a look at. So I invite everyone to question everything, leave no stone unturned, and question the very foundations of everything that you now believe. Will it threaten you? Will it threaten your ego? Who you really are, however, cannot be threatened. You are not broken. Your will and God's will are one. Guess what that means? I know you're doing the verbal math, or you wouldn't be here watching this. You and God are one. We all are. May take some getting used to, and that's all right. It's just a matter of entertaining these ideas and let them percolate in your mind. They're being presented systematically in this fashion, in this order, for a reason. And that's to help us awaken to the truth of who we really are. So if you're interested, take a look at the workbook. You don't have to own a physical copy of the book. There are tremendous resources available online. Today's lesson has been workbook lesson 116, and again, the review of ideas 102, 101, and 102 here in the workbook. God's will for me is perfect happiness. I share in God's will for perfect happiness for me. All right, let's see who's tuning in here on a Sunday. And I'm curious to know who's tuning in. And as I bring this up, again, I just invite you to, if you're interested in seeing some back episodes here of the live stream, to check Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel. Well, and hello, Cindy's watching me from just a few feet away here. I think she's come into the kitchen, and she was poolside a minute ago. So thank you. Thanks for tuning in. And thank you guys, all of you, for watching either on my personal Facebook page or here on Enlightened World Network. The YouTube channel that I'm referring to is Enlightened World Network's YouTube channel. And you can catch all the past episodes of this live stream there. And have a great rest of your day, everyone. I will see you again tomorrow. And it has been A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. Everybody have a great day.